Welcome to Behind the Podium, Unveiling the Coach. Problem solvers have problems too. So here at Behind the Podium, I, Jared Cohen, and my co-host Alexander Ellis discuss the struggles, philosophies, demands, and practices of the coach, or said more broadly, health and wellness practitioner. To provide quality coaching is to enhance someone's life in an everlasting and unfolding way. This is not easy and requires a lot of due diligence and self-mastery on the part of the coach to be able to perform. So without further ado, join us as we dig deeper into the depths of the coach's mind. Welcome back. This is Behind the Podium. I am Jared Cohen.
And I'm Alexandra Ellis.
And we got a little in-between episode for you today. We figured we would keep it short and sweet, but still potent and relevant to all of our teaching, coaching, and leadership type questions. So Alex is gonna take the lead here today and talk to us about her most recent Integrate Anatomy seminar and give us some takeaways from that coaching event.
Yeah. So I just finished up 3 days of the Yoga Tune-Up Integrated Embodied Anatomy Training module, which is designed for movement teachers who are looking to enhance their understanding of the body in a more relevant way. I know when I did my 200-hour for yoga training, which is like the entry level, I think the requirement is 10 hours of anatomy. And one experience, it was literally somebody reading out of an anatomy book about each muscle and its origin and its insertion and its action, which as a movement person is the least relevant thing that you could possibly experience. And then I had an additional training where we were talking about, feeling the ground reaction force and how it affects the yoga poses. And that was like way over my head. And so I've always wanted to be able to, meet the middle ground, to really enrich what you felt you were lacking in your initial training, but also to spark curiosity for additional learning. Because you're never going to learn anatomy in one day or one sitting or 1 week or 1 year or even that. And every time I prepare for this module, I always learn a bunch of new stuff because there's really only so much you can fit in your brain, And so I think people's frustration with anatomy perhaps is that there is a lot to know. And the first time you go to learn it, you're just like, whoa, like I can't do this. It's too big. So I always open up the training with that, like, hey, listen, I'm going to turn on a fire hose of information and try to blast you over. Don't let me do it, but know that you're not going to pick it all up today. This is the third time I've done this module, this long form training. And since the last time I taught it, I've really done a lot of focused work on figuring out who it is that I really want to reach and teach. And I think for those of you who are out in the world and you're like, I keep getting these students who are really, not aligned with my principles or not agreeing with what I'm doing, or there's some disconnect there. A little bit of soul searching almost is what I've been doing over the last, I guess it's been almost 9 or 10 months, to figure out who it is that I want to teach and how that process is going to happen and what type of things we're going to connect on. And so the person that I've really been trying to manifest is just as nerdy and excited about the body as I am. And so when I was able to stand in front of a room of people this weekend who were just as jazzed and nerdy about anatomy as I was, it was so satisfying, I guess would be the word. Really satisfying. everybody was super cool and stoked about the nitty gritty granular of myofibroblasts and all that stuff, up to how that actually matters in your movement practice, understanding the inflammatory process and how healing occurs, what actually is repetitive stress, how is Wolff's Law at play when we're doing our movement practice. Do I really need to pick up a barbell to do bone growth, or can I do something else? And so it was really cool to be able to share all of that with people who were ready and open for it.
And how were you able to collect the type of people that you feel like were more on your wavelength this time around than how you've done it in the past? Was there something different about the marketing or whom you were, for lack of a better way to put it, willing to accept the
there's no application process, so anybody can come. Magic. No, I'm just kidding. Everything I do, I am speaking to the individual I hope to attract. And any decent business coaching classes or any studies like that will encourage you to develop what some people call an avatar, or your ideal client, your ideal customer, something like that. And I really encourage you to get like super specific about it, even down to like, where does this person like to shop? And, what does their day look like? And, like, who are they? What are they like? What keeps them up at night? What it makes them super excited? And then literally everything I do, I keep that person in mind. And so whether it's writing an article for my blog, which I've been putting out blogs every week for almost every week for probably like the last 4 years.
That's awesome.
Thank you. So every blog I've written in the last 9 months has been very targeted to that person. And anytime I make a post on social media, I'm also thinking about that person and how will what I share attract that person. So I feel like, and I've read it, people have said it's kind of cliche, but like you attract the vibe that you put out.
Right.
And so, reflecting back on it, I think perhaps that's what happened. And so, I mean, with social media and marketing and business and all this stuff, sometimes it may feel really overwhelming because you're not clear with who you're trying to talk to. But if you do get clear and just think of like, okay, how can I help this person kick ass today? And that's the type of stuff you share with them. Those are the type of people that you'll attract.
And so what I'm hearing from you then is you really feel like this past weekend was a reflection of how much better you have pinpointed that those you were up in front of, you feel like best reflected the people that you want to be working with and talking to, and resonate with your energy, as opposed to whom you've worked with or talked to previously?
I'd like to think so, because after a particularly difficult training, in which I said to myself, like, I don't ever want to do this again.
Yeah.
That was where I really started to get clear with who I was trying to talk to, because it was clear to me in that training that who was there wasn't it.
Yeah.
So if this isn't it, what is it? And so, yeah, I mean, honestly, like looking back and reflecting, I didn't think of it when I was in the room. I was just like shocked. I was like, wow, these people are like so excited about all of this stuff. And, they have super intelligent questions, and, we're having a great dialogue and really getting into some awesome awesome discussions. In hindsight, it's like, oh,
that's awesome.
Like, this is the tribe I've been looking for, and they're here. And that's awesome. I'm so grateful.
Yeah. It's so fulfilling.
Yeah. Because it's not just about teaching. It's not just about, even anatomy for that for that matter. And I think that I know you and I, and I'm sure many of our listeners too, it's not just about the thing that we're doing, but there's some higher purpose maybe, you know, that we're trying to fulfill. And you may or may not be aware of that, but I know in our discussions with all of the guests we've had on the show is really talking to people who are so clear on what they're doing and why they're doing it. And once you become clear on that, it makes it a lot easier to also decide, you know, do I want to do this or do that? And how will I approach this task or that task or this event or that? And it just makes things a lot easier. Because part of and I think back to like, you know, a couple of years ago, like, well, why was I so annoyed with what I was doing? It's like, because that's not what I wanted to be doing. Those weren't the people who I wanted to serve. There's nothing more frustrating, I know we've talked about it, than working with somebody who like doesn't want what you're selling, you know?
Yeah, for sure. And really what you're talking about is the enjoyment of connecting, you know, and which is why, you know, I love doing these podcasts. I love listening to podcasts, especially when there's more than one person talking, because you really get enveloped in that connection that's taking place and how that unfolds with time. And if you've landed on that podcast, it's likely you've landed there because there's something that resonates with you. And now, you know, that's just continuing to build as you're connecting with the conversation that you're listening to or the conversation you're having. And those tribes really become exponential, right? Is like now they can, you know, we can piggyback on like, oh, Alex mentioned, you know, this reference. Now someone that was digging your vibe is going to check out that reference because they trust what you're saying. And that's what I think really becomes fun. And for me, provides the hope and more of the affirmation that I'm on the right path, and there's people that are similarly jazzed up and intense about the stuff that is that meaningful to them.
Yeah, I mean, there's this podcast. I hope it's, you know, enriching for our listeners as well. But there's been so many times where we stop recording and just go like, whoa, that was so awesome.
Yeah.
Because we are, you know, attracting cool people who are so inspiring. Like every time we get off an episode, I'm just like, yeah, I'm so pumped. So it's been, it's been really cool. And I think clarity has helped a lot with the connection and figuring that out. And a lot of that has to do with the work that I've done with Elizabeth Whip, who we interviewed a couple weeks ago, and the lessons that she was able to share with me and the people she recommended, and that web of connection that I was then able to create for myself.
That's awesome. What were you most excited about, or what were you most excited to teach and riff on with this most recent anatomy seminar that you had yet to introduce or in the musical context get to play previously?
Well, one thing that I picked up on this time, this is like super, super nerdy, but it has to do with a topic that we've heard again and again and again. And each time I try to layer on something else for myself to share that as well. And that's Wolff's Law. And so how bone grows, and it actually has to do the pressure that's put on the bone, whether it's from your muscle contracting or the forces put upon it, changes the electrical charge. And that has a lot to do with whether or not your osteoblasts are going to continue to build, or that breakdown relationship, it will be in balance, or you'll be building more bone in that spot. I know. I was like, whoa.
Wow. And similarly, is there was there something that you taught this weekend that you taught differently, or you took a different stance on than you have spoken about previously?
Not necessarily stances, but presentation skills wise. Just because the syllabus, it is a yoga tune-up training. So the syllabus is pretty much, it's set as it is. But how to better share, whatever the topic was. And so I found in one of my favorite books right now is The Trail Guide to Movement by Andrew Beale. Because it takes biomechanics and anatomy and makes it so clear and easy to understand. And so he had a really great diagram breakdown of the nervous system and its multiple components. And I was able to share that, and it was super clear for me. And then also I felt in previous trainings was a point where people got kind of confused, and it was clearer that time. And so, I mean, also for those of you who are out teaching classes, it's not necessarily like, I'm not going to give up on this pose because I couldn't figure it out, but how can I tweak my delivery so that it comes across better?
Definitely. That Andrew Beale book, that's new, right?
It's newer. His other book is The Trail Guide to the Body.
Right.
Which is mostly about the muscles, and it's broken down in a great way. There's a lot of great context. But what you'll find in that book is, here's this muscle, its origin, its insertion, its actions, all of that. And then the Trail Guide to Movement puts it all together. And so the biomechanical concepts, there's a whole chapter on gait and posture and, what makes up bone and how do synovial joints look and what makes that up, all those kinds of things that are totally relevant. It's like putting all of the pieces from the Trail Guide to the Body together in movement.
That's awesome. Yeah, I have yet to get that one. I have obviously, as a yoga tune-up teacher, spent much time with the Trail Guide to the Body, but I think it's time that I add to that Andrew Beale journey.
Totally. It's such,
I think we should also try and get him on the show.
I was like, how did I not have this before?
Yeah, especially with someone that is so detail-oriented, to have him blow it up more three-dimensionally in terms of movement, and then be able to connect those two. It seems great. Lastly, what was your favorite memory from this weekend of teaching?
I always like sharing the fascia component is like the last half of the last day, which is like save the best for last. I was joking. I was like, well, if I taught this to you first, you would leave. So I have to keep you for what you really want to know. But after teaching all of the components about, what makes up connective tissue and the ingredients of that, to be able to watch videos, a super popular one in many of our trainings is Gil Hedley's Fuzz Speech, but then also to watch a video, and these are all on YouTube as well. And if you're interested in fascia, I'd totally go check it out. The Fuzz Speech and Strolling Under the Skin, which is by a French fascia researcher named Jean-Claude Guimberto.
Nicely said.
I do my best. I probably destroyed it. And that shows, because all of Gil's video are cadaver, and the Guimberto Strolling Under the Skin is live fascia. And so you get to see, like they literally stuck a camera under the skin, and you get to see how cool it looks. And really appreciate the complexity of fascia in the body, but also how pretty it is.
Yeah. Nature's counterparts. Go look at some leaves. Go look at those trees.
Well, the thing that I learned most about the body, because I did the 6-day cadaver dissection with Gil, is that every texture and pattern in nature is repeated in the body. There's nothing unique within us that you can't also find in the sky, in a tree, in a plant, on the ground. We're all just another repetition of the same fabric.
Ooh, repetition of the same fabric. That's beautiful. See, guys, she has refined and grown her clarity of speech. It's not just academic, it's also poetic.
I do what I can.
All right, well, I'm glad we got this little in-between episode in here. Alex, do you want to tell about any upcoming trainings, teachings that people can catch going forward?
Yeah, for sure. I'm teaching the same module, the Yoga Tune-Up Integrated Embodied Anatomy, twice next year. So the first will be in February in Washington, and then in March in San Francisco. And so you can find out more details about registration and all of that on my website, aewellness.com.
Fantastic. Well, now that you know, Alex is all about her tribe. And if you're here listening, you are already in the tribe, so you might as well jump on one of those trainings. Club. Yeah, just come and show your VIP pass with your favorite behind the podium quotes and relics from past episodes.
And mugs.
Yeah. Make your own T-shirt.
Woohoo!
Well, without further ado, we will end here. And thanks for always tuning in, and we'll catch you next time.
Hey guys, thanks for listening to Behind the Podium, Unveiling the Coach. If you have enjoyed what you listened to, head over to iTunes and leave us a review. More information on each episode and the podcast in general can be found at behindthepodiumpodcast.com. We'll catch you next time.